Right, Deshaun Watson now facing 19 lawsuits, and one of the 3 lawsuits filed today alleges that he deleted Instagram messages and also has contacted some of the massage therapists directly in an effort to settle the cases. Now, it's unclear whether the allegation is that he has contacted massage therapists who sued or whether other ones who have yet sued. There's a subtle, and it's a little too inside baseball from the legal profession standpoint, reason as to why it's worse and it's more delicate to contact people who've already sued you because they're represented by counsel. Either way, it's been denied by Rusty Hardin, Deshaun Watson's lawyer. The bottom line is, Myles, this thing is showing no indication, no sign, no evidence that it's going to go away quickly and cleanly. I've been advocating for days now that Deshaun Watson needs to have a mediation with all of these individuals in a room with a retired judge or an experienced lawyer who can give everyone something that feels like their day in court. Everyone can come out of this with some sort of satisfaction, and Deshaun Watson can put this behind him. And again, when I say that, I'm not saying make it go away. I'm saying deal with it, resolve it in a mature, responsible fashion instead of having it hang over your life and your career for the next 2 years or longer.
Well, right. I think you're saying that he should use the processes that are available to him in order to take some sort of accountability, which I think is different than saying make it go away. I think that there is a large difference between those two different things. And I think you're right, Mike, because the more this continues, the more allegations that continue to come out against him, the more that this is going to just continue to be a cloud that hangs over his head in not just his career, but also in his life. So at a certain point, I think you're right. He just has to be able to get this into some sort of mediation and some sort of process for him to take accountability, and then for this to be able to be so that he can be able to put this in its proper place in his life and then take accountability for what apparently are or allegedly are his actions.
And here's the problem with that, because even though Tony Buzbee, who represents these 19 plaintiffs, says it's not about money, I mean, it is about money. He's being disingenuous when he claims it isn't. He's just trying to score points in the court of public opinion. However, if there's urgency from Watson to settle the case, that's a factor in determining what is a fair outcome. See, this is part of the problem of, from Watson's perspective, being painted into a corner by Tony Buzbee. Because if you want to resolve this quickly, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost more to resolve it now because it's in your interests to resolve it now, so you can remove this cloud from your career, so you can remove this distraction from your life. You want it to go away? That's part of what you're paying for. That's part of the business transaction. And I know it seems crass to have it all boil down to dollars and cents, but that's how the civil justice system works. That's why it offends me for Buzbee to try to tell us it's not about money. It's inherently about money. That's the commodity that you use to resolve, either through settlement or a judgment, a claim of this nature. That's it. That's the only way to resolve it. And the question becomes, what's the fair amount now for these 19 cases to ultimately be resolved so Deshaun Watson can get on with his life? By the way, we wrote something earlier today based on a Houston Chronicle item suggesting that, or reporting that Deshaun Watson's sponsors have yet to abandon him, including Nike, Beats by Dre, and Rolex. I wouldn't be so sure about Nike. There's reason to think that Nike may be thinking about ending its relationship with Deshaun Watson.
Well,
I'm told, per sources.
Yeah. Well, if they are, then, again, there's certainly good reason for it based on what is out there, not just from these 19 lawsuits, but then also, as you mentioned before we went to break, the Sports Illustrated article or SI.com article that came out today. I mean, there's certainly some stuff in there that I would not be surprised if it made Nike feel some sort of trepidation about working with him in the future.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all PR, and this court has been tried extensively, or this case, rather, and these cases have been tried extensively in the court of public opinion. As to the allegation, Myles, that Deshaun Watson has been deleting Instagram messages and contacting massage therapists directly. Rusty Hardin, his attorney, issued a statement shortly after reporters began to focus on those allegations in one of the 3 new lawsuits. Here's what Hardin's statement had to say. And, of course, my eyes are going to be hard-pressed to read this. And I can see it now. I'm like at the doctor doing the eye test. Like a lot of people, Deshaun regularly deletes past Instagram messages. That said, he has not deleted any messages since March 15, the day before the first lawsuit was filed. We categorically deny that he has reached out directly to his accusers in an attempt to settle these cases. The thing about deleting the Instagram messages as of March 15, the day before the first case was filed, he supposedly knew for a while that something was coming. So that invites speculation as to whether or not he may have deleted something relevant to any of these cases before the first one was filed at a time when he knew that something was happening. I'm more comfortable with the statement, if this had been the true statement, that he hasn't deleted anything since the day before he first became aware that anyone was claiming that he engaged in wrongdoing. Because that's the point where I think everything needs to freeze. And if anything is deleted, you got to wonder, number one, what was deleted? And, of course, it can always be reconstructed. And number two, why did you delete it?
Absolutely. And I believe the thing about Instagram messages, even if he were to delete one of them, and I could be totally wrong, and I probably shouldn't be since I'm a millennial, but the other person might still have access to that message. So they can certainly be reconstructed, as you were just saying anyway. So I think when it is of that nature, and you say, the day before these things were first filed and they first came out publicly, then yes, that does raise a couple of eyebrows, and it should, because it goes to whether or not, he was trying to cover something up before this became public knowledge.
Another thing that nags at a lot of people and gnaws at a lot of people and bothers a lot of people, including Rusty Hardin, the reality that they still don't know who any of these people are. They're all proceeding under the pseudonym Jane Doe, and the report today from Jenny Vrentas of SI.com has another unnamed massage therapist who was granted anonymity. Now, SI clearly vetting the person appropriately, coming to the conclusion that her allegations are at least based on what she believes, not something that are being fabricated and they can trust her. But with 20 people and not a single one of them attaching a name to it, that at a certain point provides ammunition for people who just say something's not right here. Because when Antonio Brown was sued for sexual assault and rape, the name of the plaintiff, Brittany Taylor, attached to the lawsuit. When Ben Roethlisberger was sued for rape in 2009 in Nevada, the name of the plaintiff attached to the lawsuit. And I'm now at the point, Myles, and I really don't want to do this. I'm like Pacino in Godfather 3. Every time I'm out, they pull me back in. I'm going to have to research Texas law and see exactly what the procedural rules and requirements and standards are for filing suit under a John or Jane Doe pseudonym. Because there has to be, at some point, there has to be a standard. Because anybody could do it whenever they wanted to, if that was the case. You could keep all your business private and sue for anything under a John Doe or a Jane Doe pseudonym. And I'm not suggesting anyone's done anything wrong. With 20 people not attaching a name to this, at a certain point, especially with Deshaun Watson's lawyer complaining about it, it does invite curiosity as to whether or not there's any argument that Rusty Hardin may make that these lawsuits aren't sufficient because a name hasn't been supplied.
Well, if you don't have a name supplied, then it also makes it more difficult to then investigate it from Deshaun Watson's perspective, which I believe is the point that Rusty Hardin has been making. So from that perspective, it's okay. How can we then say, if you're Rusty Hardin, you're Deshaun Watson's lawyer, it's how can we properly investigate what this is and prove that there was no wrongdoing if we don't have all of the facts, because they have not been properly presented to us, because all of these things are being presented under the name of a Jane Doe. So from that standpoint, you can sort of see where they're coming from. However, that doesn't mean that there was no wrongdoing in the first place.
Correct. And look, the rules permit it. I'm just curious now with 19 lawsuits and another individual not attaching a name to it, I'm becoming curious as to what the standard is, because there's a chance that maybe some of these individuals meet it, some don't. Maybe they all meet it, maybe none of them do. That just feels like one of the angles that will be pushed on behalf of Deshaun Watson, so I want to try to get ahead of it and figure out exactly what it is.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.